This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another great session. We are super excited that you're here, and I am very excited to introduce our next speaker. Dr. Heidi Harris is an early childhood professional with a PhD in early childhood education from Walden University. Heidi is an associate faculty member in the graduate level ECE programs at UAGC, as well as Spring Arbor University. Heidi's passions and research expertise lies in the constructivist-based pedagogy of Reggio Emilia-inspired programs. She seeks to support adult learners, childhood professionals, and she wants to help them find joy in teaching through a focus on developing connections before curriculum and holistic approaches to learning with young children. We are super excited to have Dr. Harris with us here today. She always does an amazing job. Next slide, please. I want you to take just a moment to read over this disclaimer from UAGC. All right, we have one more disclaimer. And Dr. Harris, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the concept of provocation. And so this is just sort of the layout of what we're going to be doing. The first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about the theory behind what a provocation is, connecting it to the Reggio Emilia philosophy where it originated, and then talk a little bit about practically how are you going to put these into your classroom and show some visuals, some examples, talk a little bit about barriers and solutions, and then we're going to end with some inspirations from resources. So I just want you to take a moment and look at this image and imagine the children that you're serving in your school or your classroom, and imagine they're right next to you and they see this, and I want you to think about what type of thing you think they would do with these materials. I know from my experience working in the classroom for 13 years and also being with my own young children that they would probably, a small group of children might see this and they think, oh, I'm going to go, they start talking together and they decide that they want to create a little cafe together. So they are going to take those flowers and they're going to take the little bowls and the utensils and they're going to set up their own little coffee shop. So through that experience, they are learning social and emotional skills. They are developing their ability to talk about problems, because I'm sure somebody wants to do something a certain way and someone wants to do something a different way. So they're going to be developing those skills as well. I could see another child. I've had a lot of children that are naturalists and they're wired, that way. They may see those flowers and think, oh, I wonder what type of flower that is. So they might take it to one of their teachers, and the teachers go and find a resource book, and together they identify some of those flowers. So their critical thinking skills are developing, and language and literacy and science through that experience. And then I could see, maybe another child who's a little bit more reserved and they don't share a lot, maybe at school, but they see those flowers and they start to think about a wedding that they were in last weekend, and they were the flower girl and they went down the aisle, and so they're recalling that with their friends on the playground and their teachers, and they're building their self-esteem there at school. So as you can see, when materials are set out in a way that's provoking, it allows children to use them in such different ways and with such meaning. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how putting materials out in a specific way and arranging them in a certain way really helps to build that engagement. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to talk about the term provocation, right? What is a provocation? When we look at the term provocation, we know that the root word provoke We want to look at that. We look at the definition of provoke, and that means to stimulate or give rise to, right? So really, that's the whole intention behind a provocation. We want to stimulate the child's brain. We want them to start thinking differently about these materials, using their imagination, and to really use the materials in a way, and as they see them, that will provide engagement with those materials, a sense of wonder, right? I remember the first time I was working in a classroom that was a Reggio Emilia inspired classroom, and we had the wipe-off board. We were preparing it for the next day, and we had written at the top provocation, and we were writing out what those things were going to be that we were going to offer the children. And I remember a grandparent coming in and questioning me and saying, why do you use this term provocation? Why don't you just say activity? And so, I sort of fumbled through the answer, and I was a novice educator. I'd only been in the classroom for maybe a few months at that time. And after she left, I had a really in-depth conversation with my colleague, and we started talking about this concept. And she was more experienced, and she said, really what it comes down to is intentionality. And we want to provide materials, putting them out in a way that really draws their attention, and that we have an intention behind it. So we're just going to keep talking about that and how we can do that in practice. So when we think about the word provocation, we want to know, where does this come from, right? So we know that in Reggio Emilia programs, this concept of provocation is used. So my background, I have studied Reggio Emilia philosophy. I have completed my doctoral dissertation on it, and I'm still researching it. But to put it in a very small nutshell, I would say, to summarize it, the concept of the Reggio Emilia approach is that children are seen as strong and capable. They are really the ones that are driving the learning in the classroom, along with their educators who are guiding them. And the philosophy believes that children are they have so many different ways of expressing themselves, and we want to give them opportunities to do that. So you may have heard the term 100 languages, and that's something that's honored in the Reggio Emilia classroom. And really, relationships are at the core and the center of the philosophy, and building those relationships between the peers in the classroom, between the family and the educators, and as also within the community. And one of the things, if you're not familiar with the Reggio Emilia philosophy, one of the concepts that you may be familiar with, because many people, if they don't know that much about it, but they do know that there is intentionality within the classroom environment. And you may have heard the term, the environment as a third teacher. And so when we look at these images here, they're provided by Boulder Journey School, which is one of the most recognized and reputable programs in the United States for following the Reggio Emilia philosophy. We know that you can just see these images, and you're just drawn to the classrooms, because of the way the materials are arranged, and the ways that the light is used in the classroom. And so we know that when we think about the word provocation and what we want to put out for young children, is it's a part of this concept that's a little larger than that, of the entire environment. And you're creating an environment that's aesthetic and that's pleasing to the child. And I want to make mention of someone who I've learned a lot from. Her name is Dr. Sandra Duncan, and she was at our conference at University of Arizona Global last year. And I would highly recommend going back to her presentation that you can find on the YouTube channel of UAGC, that's called Inspiring Environments for Young Children. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she talks about this concept of this connection between beauty and cognition when we create environments such as these. Because you might be thinking, well, what's the purpose behind setting up our environments like this? Well, this is what she's saying. This concept is that when we make that connection, there's research that shows when we create environments that are that are aesthetically pleasing, there is a strong correlation to positive gains cognitively for the children in our care. So she talks about this, thinking about this concept as three slices in a pie. And the first one is that inspiring spaces are places of beauty. The second is beauty promotes a sense of wonder, right? So I think you can see that in these images here. And then wonder promotes lifelong learning. And that's really what we want, right? She also talks about classroom design should be designed according to inspiration. And so I want to just make mention from this image on the right-hand side. You see those farm animals that are arranged in the back of the room, and they're arranged with such intention from small to large. And I think if you can imagine, so that is something that would be called a provocation, right? And that could be a provocation that's simply put out. But if you think about the opposite way of setting out those materials, in some classrooms I've worked in, there may be farm animals mixed with dinosaurs, mixed with little people, and they're in a large plastic bin with 50 other animals, right? What would the experience, how different would that experience be between that, what I just described, and then this here with the farm animals set out very intentionally? I think we all know that children most likely are going to be engaging very differently with those materials that are all thrown together and the ones that are intentionally set out. So let's talk a little bit about provocations, like how do we go about setting them out and why are we doing it? What type of way are we doing it? So connections to experiences. We want to create offerings that are meaningful to the child, right? So provocations should be provoking, but they should also be done in a way that are connecting to something larger. And I will make note that there can be provocations that are more elaborate, such as this, that has a very deeper connection to something that children have experienced before. And this would be something that you would most likely be pre-planning with your teaching team. You would be having conversations about maybe observations you've made, and that this would be something that you would be laying out on the lesson plan. There also can be provocations, such as the first image I showed with the flowers on the playground and a metal tray, that may be something that in the moment, in the fly, the teachers decide, oh, that looks like, maybe we want to offer this on the playground. And that could be something that maybe isn't on the lesson plan. So keep that tension in mind. There can be a provocation that's very wide ranging, but behind all of it, there should be some type of intention on the teacher's part of offering it to the child. So I'm going to make mention that these slides, most of the slides from here on out are my own slides. I do provide home education for my 3 young children, and these are photos from that. And the picture on the left-hand side, the bottom left, my family and I, we went on a camping trip, and we were in a beautiful area of Michigan, Petoskey, Michigan, where there are lots of Petoskey stones, and they're these beautiful little stones, but they can be sometimes really difficult to find, and they have little holes inside of them. And it's just so fun in the summertime to go and to find these on the beach, and my children were just in love with it. So when we got back home, we had collected lots of rocks, and I decided to set up a provocation like this one to just help extend those learning experiences. Now, again, it took me probably 5 minutes to set this up. The lights we already had set up in the classroom or in our schoolroom, but we want to think about the arrangement of materials. I didn't just throw the rocks in, the plastic bag in their bedroom. I could have done that, but I did take a little bit more time in laying out the materials in a way that would stimulate their thoughts and ideas further. So I'm going to go into just sharing a few visuals. I think visuals are really good, and talking a little bit about how to lay out a provocation. If you're unfamiliar with this term, you may be thinking like, how do I even go about it? Now, I will say that many of you, if you're not working in a Reggio Emilia program or another constructivist-based program, you may not be familiar with the term provocation, but your classroom or your school may be using the term activity, and that's okay. That's, so you may see it as a small group activity, or you may see it as like a tabletop activity. But when we look at how we lay out a provocation, like I said, the intentionality needs to be there, and a deeper connection to a learning outcome, a project that you're working on, depending on the philosophy that you're using in the classroom, you want to take all those things into consideration. Now, I typically put out either a book or some way of writing with the children to stimulate language and literacy. It doesn't always have to be that way, and it's not always that way, but many times you will have that. Also, I think we need to think about the materials that we're setting out. Like these pencils, these sharpened pencils, they're sharpened. That's why I put it down, right? And again, if we're wanting children to engage, I think about a lot of, for me, if I come to, a basket of, broken pencils, or I come to a glass jar that has, sharpened pencils ready for me to go, which one am I going to be using for a longer period of time? I think we both know that we typically are going to be using the ones that are sharpened. We will talk a little bit about the time element, because I know many of you are thinking, well, how do I find the time for that? Another thing that I wanted to note is maybe some of you are questioning, what if the children don't want to use the materials in the way that we have offered? That's a great question, and something that I think you should be having those conversations with your team, and it should be a larger part of school culture. I always like to start with, if a child has an idea, I may say to them, could you tell me more about your idea? If they take the flower and they're trying to take it over to another area, I may say that, like, tell me more about your idea of where you're taking that flower. And another thing is, it's okay to set limits. Sometimes we set limits on things and say, you know what, right now we're going to use the materials here at the table. When all children have an opportunity to use these materials, then we can revisit, right? So I think it's just a larger conversation that you would want to have with your teaching team. So we think about the arrangement of materials. So many times, the materials that you have in the classroom, you may be getting sort of bored with them. And what do you think the children are thinking? Yeah, same thing. Maybe, we use them in the same way every time. Now, these blocks we have on the left-hand side, we have in our schoolroom. They're offered all the time on the shelf, but I was noticing my children weren't really engaging with them. So what did I do? I took about, 3 minutes, and I arranged them in a different order, pulled them off of the shelf, put them in the block area, and the engagement level skyrocketed, right? Same thing with the the magnetiles. Magnetiles are always out, but just pulling out those, just the same colored ones, matching them with the colored pencils that were the same color, stimulated their minds in a different way. More examples of how we arrange materials. The image on the left, these are library books that were sitting in a basket, were not being used. I noticed that when I set up the classroom that morning. I arranged them in a circle format, and what happened? The children were drawn to them. They went over and they were engaged with them. So sometimes we think, oh, do we have the money for this? Do we have the money? A lot of times it's the materials you already have in the room. It's just the way you're arranging them. I wanted to make mention too, because I talk a little bit about these mirrors in a little bit on the right-hand side. These mirrors are wonderful. I've had them for 10 years. I would highly recommend, you could get them on Amazon. You just can Google standing mirrors, and they are for self-portraits. That's how I put it in the Amazon, and it's They were like, I think less than $10, and I use them all the time. And they're wonderful for self-portraits or still life drawings like this that's offered on the right. So this is one of my favorite images. This is from my firstborn son. He was about maybe a year and a half in this photo, very drawn. He's a nature lover, naturalist by heart, and even from a young age, he's always been that way. So we went on a nature walk. We collected a bunch of leaves. The next day, I just took out some blank paper and I arranged those leaves. And it was just really amazing to see the engagement level that he just honestly was observing those leaves, and you could tell he was thinking a lot about them. So what this is to say is that, you know, provocations are for all ages. Like that first image of the little the infant in the leaves. We want to provoke you know, learning for children from infancy all the way until, you know, the last classroom that we're going to be teaching in, right? Another way to set up provocations is to use questions. And so you can see on both of these images, the one on the left, we did a project on the solar system for, it was actually a couple of years that we did that, and we created our own solar system. And so just writing out some of those questions, what is missing from our solar system, helps to provoke and to stimulate that conversation and to start their thinking in that direction. And then on the right hand side, you know, where is your favorite place and why? We had just gotten back from a road trip, and I was hoping that they would reflect a little bit on that and to think about maybe some other places in the world that they wanted to visit. But again, using questions can really help stimulate some of those conversations. So let's briefly talk about barriers and solutions, because I know it's one of those things that we always want to be talking about, right? So I think the first thing to say is, okay, what if I don't work in a Reggio Emilia program? Can I use these this concept of provocation? Absolutely. No, I think that first going into it, I remember the first early Reggio Emilia program that I worked in, and I felt very overwhelmed because I felt so far behind some of the other educators and just the thinking and you know, where they were. And I think it's okay. We all start somewhere, right? So having realistic expectations, if you're working in a program that really goes against some of these concepts, I would have you reflect on that. Is that, you know, I must say that for me, I worked in the field in the classroom for over 13 years. And I worked in many classrooms that I did not resonate with the philosophy being used. And I moved along. I had to match what was in my heart with where I was working and what type of philosophy was being used. So, you know, start to think about some of those things. I would ask you to question yourself a little on that. Communicating with your co-teachers. If you know, attended this professional development and you really like some of these ideas, but you're not really sure where to start, I think the first place is talking with your co-educators. You don't want to just go in the classroom and start a new concept without having that communication. Also with your administration, talking with them. Maybe they just attended a professional development and they're very eager to start some of these concepts. So I think that's a great place to start, and it's okay. It's okay. There's different places where we are all on different journeys. So maybe you're thinking about like when logistically would I have the time to set up some of these intentional provocations, right? So there's idealism, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what would be ideal, but that might not work for your center or for your classroom, and that's okay too. And so you need to take this information and again go back and make sense of it for your own school and your own class. But I mean, the first thing that we want to think about is the flow of your day, so that you are setting up that flow, that rhythm with your children, that schedule, if you want to call it, that meets the needs of being able to set out high quality programming. So maybe you need to tweak your schedule a little bit to allow for that. So I would say what's ideal if you have, it depends obviously on how many educators you have in your classroom. If you are working with more than one, the person that's opening the classroom, they probably have other responsibilities, but try to set maybe a realistic expectation of that opener is going to, because maybe you don't have you don't have children that early, maybe they set up one provocation. And then once, some of the children are getting there, then there's the morning meeting, which I do believe morning meetings should be within the first, hour of the day, because you're going to be checking in with the children, checking in about feelings, checking in about what the plan is for the day. And that's a great way to, while there's an educator facilitating that meeting, maybe one of the other ones is setting up some of the provocations that you have already pre-planned. Again, maybe you're thinking, okay, that's not realistic because we have some needs in the classroom that don't allow for, anyone to be doing anything during meeting except supporting the children. Obviously, the children's needs come first. I also, in some of the classrooms I worked in, we would invite some of those children that were maybe bodily kinesthetic that had a really difficult time sitting during extensive time at meeting time. They could come over and be your helper. And honestly, that fills them up. I know I have a child of my own that's a bodily kinesthetic learner, and he can really receive information, even though he may not be looking like he can. If he's moving his body, he's still paying attention. So that child could be with you and maybe be setting out some of the items and moving his body, and that's really fulfilling his need, while the other children are attended to by the other educator at the meeting. So again, do what's best for you and your classroom. Utilizing low numbers and nap time. I mean, of course, again, the children come first, but sometimes you do that, right? Nap time of all the children are sleeping, you're going to be doing some of that prep. And low numbers maybe at the end of the day, especially, if you have a program running throughout the summer, taking turns. One of the teachers is with the two children that are left for the last hour, and one of the other teachers is helping prep for the next week. And advocating for planning time. I am a strong, firm believer that if we're running early childhood programs that are high quality, our teachers need to be honored and given the appropriate time to plan. And it can be difficult. I know there's staff shortages. I know post-COVID, it's been even more difficult, but I truly believe that that's important, and doing it obviously in a respectful manner with the administration that you have, but it's something that needs to be accounted for. And providing your team with adequate planning time is essential. And we talked about this, involving the children when you're able to. That can really cut down on, the need to be pulled away and to do it on your own. Children love to help. They love to do real work, and it builds their confidence, it builds their self-esteem. So look for opportunities to include them. One of the things that I really learned through working in the classroom, a Reggio Emilia classroom, is that I always had this concept, like, we have to offer something new all the time, every day. It needs to be new provocations every day. That's not, we want to revisit, right? We want to revisit because when we take time to observe children, we can see that provocations, it helps to give them the same materials and maybe tweaking it a little bit, and maybe differentiating it for certain children. But we like to offer it more than once, because then you can really see how their engagement maybe be different, and observing that, and observing what they're showing us through how they're using the materials. And then always thinking about, documenting their learning. Obviously, in a Reggio Emilia inspired classroom, you're going to be using documentation and evaluating the children and their strengths and seeing where they are. But I also acknowledge that some of us are working with other programs, and you may be working under certain standards and assessments that we should always be thinking about. So connecting what you're offering to the assessment goals and the learning goals. Getting organized. Very simply, but it's something that can really help to push this concept to make it happen. So I love these carts on the right-hand side. I have a couple, and it really does help to keep everything that you want to offer in an organized manner. One of the classrooms that I worked in, we had a large countertop that was sort of dead space at the back of our classroom. And so we got huge baskets that were, you know, aesthetic. They looked beautiful, but they held a lot of materials, so that when we had extra time, if I was down in the lounge and I knew that I wanted the Sharpies for the next day, I could grab those and I could stick them somewhere where they weren't like just sitting out and making you know, the classroom look chaotic. But I had them in my basket in the back of the classroom that was out of the reach of children, but also put there so that I could just gather things ahead of time. Obviously, you're going to be I mean, this concept of provocation, you're going to be planning these, like I said, they should be, majority of them, maybe not all, but majority of them you're going to offer each week should be set out in a planned manner. So you're going to be writing those down in a lesson plan so that you can gather your materials ahead of time. Another question that may arise that I wanted to make mention of is like, how many provocations do we set out? Honestly, it all depends on, you know, the ages and the stages and the individual needs of the children. It's going to depend on how many children you have in the classroom, how many educators you have to facilitate those provocations, and then, you know, what is involved in the provocation. And so it's sort of a balancing act. I'll give you an example just so that you have sort of a set, you know, in your mind, thinking about like a specific number. In the last classroom I worked at, I think we had 20 to 22 children. There was 3 educators, and we would try to have, I would say, about 4 provocations or 5, you know, per day. And that was inside the classroom. And those were ones that were, you know, pre-planned, I would say. So I'd say probably around 4. Another thing that's important is to establish a rhythm for getting those items back into their place, because I did find that when we had the baskets, it was sometimes they would fill up very quickly, and I didn't always have, you know, the time to put them back as I should. Again, keeping those students in mind. They love to be helpful. You know, at the end of the day, maybe for the last 5 minutes of the end of the day, you and a couple of the children that are still there on Fridays, take the time to put some of those materials back. But just establishing some of those rhythms, again, communicating with your co-teachers. It's so big. It seems so simple, but I know from experience that it's not always easy. But if you put some systems in place, then you can really get these things happening and an action plan in place. So some common items to use during setting up a provocation. Tablecloths. I love tablecloths. I have a huge set of them, and they're great because if you have items like paint or dirt, just really easy for cleanup, right? Mirrors, I made mention of the mirrors, the stand-up mirrors. Those are wonderful if you don't already have some. Baskets, you know, part of the aesthetic of a Reggio Emilia classroom is that we want to really think about using natural materials and how that really resonates with who, you know, the heart of the materials that you're using. Books, we talked about that. Craft paper, another essential that I use constantly is I've purchased it on Amazon. I'm sure you can purchase it other places as well. But craft paper, I usually use the brown, and a big, huge roll of craft paper for maybe $10. And you can set those out very easily, and it just sort of cleans up what you are offering to the children. And also, it's very easy for cleanup as well. Writing utensils, I talked about this, making sure that they're prepared ahead of time. I will say, you know, in Reggio Emilia programs, they see children as capable. Children are offered real materials, real artistic materials. Now, do you just give a 2-year-old a Sharpie? No, you work up to that point. But you do offer them when they are ready, and you have conversations, and there's certain places that we use certain materials. An atelier, right? The art studio is somewhere where you use materials. You also have mini ones, maybe in the classroom. I also want to make mention my favorite pens to use for a lot of provocations, which is in this image right here, Paper Mate Flares. I would definitely recommend. They are my favorite pen, and I have definitely adopted it from somewhere along the line of a Reggio Emilia school I worked in, but they're great. They are really great too for certain types of writing projects that you're working with the children on. I also like to use them for if you're inviting a child to use like still life drawings, to use this as like the outline, and then to use watercolor or paint or some type of material to color inside. And then clipboards are wonderful. Wipe-off boards, I love wipe-off boards. Pre-literacy is so wonderful. You know, you can use wipe-off boards for whatever you're offering for the child to use, but also if like some of those provoking questions we talked about, you can use a wipe-off board and write some of those down. Also environmentally friendly, right? This light table I created all on my own. I've had it for years. I think I got it from Pinterest or something, but a string of lights and inside of a Tupperware that opens on the ends, and just taking a white piece of tissue paper, taping it to the inside. Voila, you have your own light table. So we're going to look at some inspiration from some of the Instagram accounts that I follow, and there's just such a wealth of knowledge. I would say, please, you know, do your own research. I'm sure that you can find so many people to follow. On the left-hand side, 100 Languages Atelier. Their images are just beautiful and stimulating, and just really help to give you some ideas, right, of how you could go about setting up some provocations, and just I think also seeing what they're doing outside and inside, and a lot of times they'll share, you know, how the children were engaged with the provocations as well. And just Googling provocation Reggio Emilia, you know, obviously you can see there's a wide range of simplistic provocation that maybe takes 2 minutes, or if you're doing it with a much more bend toward, okay, we want it to be a specific outcome, or it's really deeply connected to this, and it's a little bit more extensive. But again, just what I also like about Google is that you say you want to do a provocation Reggio Emilia outdoors, you could do that. And then there's so many ideas that come up. So you can really, you know, rein it in on specifics. And then there's also links, like my teaching cupboard is a great one. Fairy Dust Teaching is also one that I follow. A lot of blogs, but really use the inspiration that's already there for you to think of some of these ideas, because we're all busy, right? We may be really drawn to this, but sometimes our brains and our minds are like, wait, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna arrange it? But really be inspired by others. And then just some seminal works, resources, some really deeply vetted places to go. Reggio Children is a wonderful resource to learn more about the Reggio Emilia philosophy. Narnia, North American Reggio Emilia Alliance. Now that is a membership. You can become a member, and there's different professional development that you can attend, trainings. There's job opportunities offered on their website. Boulder Journey School is one that I mentioned before, and they have a wealth of knowledge there as well. The 100 Languages of Children is the foundational book from Edward Scandini and Foreman that I would highly recommend. And then Designs for Living and Learning. Now there's so many other resources. Dr. Sandra Duncan was also one that I missed on this resource page, but I mentioned earlier, and she's a wealth of knowledge as well. So that is the end of my presentation. I just wanted to leave you with my email. If you have any questions that arise, you can always email me there, heidi.harris@faculty.uagc.edu. And I want to just challenge you as we leave here with a question that is, what is one element of the concept of provocations that you could plan to implement with your classrooms in this upcoming school year? So thank you so much.
Dr. Harris, thank you so much for being here with us today. You always do an outstanding job. She has presented for us before, and she's also been on our podcast. So go and visit those. And Dr. Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you.